What's up, guys? All right, so we we just announced our the cuts that we had to do. That obviously sucked a lot. We definitely cut people that we really didn't want to cut, and we're really hoping that we can basically turn things around and figure out where the market's gonna bottom out in terms of how it's affecting us as soon as we possibly can, and maybe we can even get some of these people back. But for now, we just got to look ahead, right? Just got to look ahead. And in looking ahead, there's actually some pretty cool stuff to talk about. So where do I start? One, I'm going to talk a little bit more about. I mentioned this. I think it was I don't know, in one of my wire posts recently, and that is the position that we're in with regards to the global recession. I firmly believe that we're going to have significant competitive advantage over many of our Amazon competitors, let alone just e-commerce competitors in general. So here's why. With Amazon specifically, they are shutting down tons and tons and tons of FBA warehouses all over the country. So those are the warehouses that hold all the inventory and ship to customers. So I'm already forgetting the number that I read like 2 weeks ago, but it was either 112 or 212. I think it may have been 212 warehouses were already shut down in the previous 30 days prior to that. That's a lot. And what they're then doing is they are limiting the capacity at which each Amazon merchant is allowed to store units of inventory at their general warehouse network. So all merchants have some kind of capacity, but basically they're slashing that capacity. So, if you're allowed to store, 50,000 units, now it's 20,000 or whatever. Everyone's getting new numbers. So one of our competitive advantages right out of the gate is the fact that we have a shit ton of stores, a bunch of seller accounts. So basically, when everyone else is getting slashed and slashed and slashed, we at least, even though all of our seller accounts are getting slashed, at least we have a lot of them. So what ends up happening is if we need to we need to replenish like a high moving product, but that seller account, that store, is still over capacity. If it were someone else, if this were happening to one of our competitors, they would not be able to ship their high moving product in unless they did like a mass recall of the other units that they have there for other products that are taking up space. For us, we can just ship in to one of our other seller accounts, one of our other stores. So that's one of our competitive advantages there. And that's actually, I know the supply chain folks are like, yeah, that's awesome, that's huge. Everyone else, that is huge. That is a massive, massive competitive advantage in itself. Then what's also happening is as Amazon creates these capacity limits, well, most other business models that we're competing against aren't like us. They don't have their own warehouse. So if a lot of the competitors that are actually beating us out now in terms of ranking are Chinese, because they have exceptional black hatting skills. So their business model is they ship, these massive several containers on a ship. It lands in LA. Sometimes Seattle if LA is backed up, and then they have third-party warehousing that receives the containers, and then that third-party warehouse then ships to FBA, Amazon FBA, on behalf of our Chinese competitors. Well, now that Amazon's slashing their inventory capacities at FBA, that's creating a backup at these third-party warehouses that are now telling those Chinese merchants like, whoa, we can't store your shit. You can't ship that over here. So it's creating this massive backlog for them. And ultimately, their minds are going crazy because they don't know what to do. They can't just ship, like 5,000 units into FBA. They're working with hundreds of thousands of units that come from China. And if there's any kink in their supply chain, it backs up everything. So they're getting really worried. They're getting really screwed. Another very common business model, and some Chinese do this one too, the smaller ones, but this is more with the like kind of like Amazon sellers that are around our size or smaller. Maybe have like less products, but do really well with like fewer products. Their business model is they go straight from the manufacturer, so they put their purchase order in with the manufacturer, and then the manufacturer ships directly to Amazon. But so that means their entire manufacturing order, their entire purchase order, has to ship to Amazon because these manufacturers are not set up to warehouse inventory. So what's happening to them is kind of similar. If the manufacturer has like a minimum order quantity of say 10,000 units, but their Amazon capacity limits are say like 5,000, then they can't ship the entire purchase order to Amazon. And so now they're scrambling, also looking for third-party storage, which A, takes a lot of headspace, B, creates a lot more cost, and that third-party warehousing space, it's going to be hard to come by because everybody is scrambling to try to find it. In fact, I went down the train of thought. I was like, well, maybe we can be a storage option. But our own warehouse is already at max capacity, so we would have to take on more space, and I'm not wanting to do that because I don't want to get locked into a lease that we later can't afford. So I'm scratching off that solution. But so that's that business model. So then you have the megacorp brands. So they have either contracts or they have their own facilities. But what's happening with them, so they're not as worried about being able to run into these capacity limits. I mean, it's affecting everyone. It's affecting us. It's affecting them. It's affecting everyone. But it's a little bit less of a concern for them because they do have their own third-party warehousing. But the way those corporations run is they basically hold the or they have their own warehousing for a certain percentage of their inventory. So they know that they have seasonal fluctuations of sales velocity, throughout the year and even throughout the years. And so they only own enough warehousing so that they never have, they're never empty. So they basically, at the bottom of their sales velocity, that's how much warehousing they have. When they have this, when they're selling a lot and they need more warehousing, then they third party because they don't want to pick up additional leasing space or like additional fixed costs for the times that they dip down, because they do so much volume that this differential between here and here is very substantial, and they don't want to be paying for warehousing that they don't need once they go back down. So they turn that extra warehousing space between here and here as a variable cost, so they basically only pay for it when they need it. So they are also having an effect with needing to work with third-party warehousing, and they're also running into trouble. But their bigger concern is that most of these brands, their products only sell for like $6, $8. And so that leaves very little room for any margin when you also have to pay for Amazon advertising and all of the logistics costs. So for them, they might only be making about 7 to 12 cents on a sale. For us, that doesn't work because we need to make like several dollars per sale, or else it doesn't cover all of our overhead and all of that stuff. But for them, it's a different business model, really. They basically created these very, very optimized systems where just making like cents per sale adds up to a lot because they're selling millions of units a month through all their different channels. So now with increased warehousing costs, with increased need for sending like smaller orders consistently to Amazon and between their warehouses, all of these additional supply chain expenses, not to mention inflation driving up fuel costs and therefore supply chain costs in general, they're going to have to raise their prices from say $7 for a face wash to like $7.75, which doesn't sound that dramatic, but their customer base is people that that's over that's a massive percentage increase from 7 to 775. So that's going to have a very dramatic effect on their overall sales volume, because that's enough to push people away. Whereas for us, if we had to raise a price from $20 to $20.75, yes, it does bring sales down typically, but it's not at a percentage that it would be if we had a business model built on slinging $7 products that now have to go up to $7.75. So, as the next few months go by, we're going to see a lot of our competitors stock out and raise prices, and that's going to open up opportunity for us. So basically what we're doing now, we're trimming down our costs substantially, and we're going to see where the market kind of bottoms out and kind of eventually levels out. And we're wanting to basically be at like break even profit month to month. And then once we see a bottoming out, then we can actually go leverage our credit that we have and start going back into growth mode a little bit. So right now we're just needing to trim our expenses all the way down to break even. Actually, we've been losing money every month for pretty much this entire year because we've been in investment mode. So we just stopped all of our investments, and even after we stop all our investments, we're still in negative mode. So now we're bringing ourselves down to break even, which will probably be our target is end of December to be down to break even. But I don't know. This cost cutting stuff's really difficult because there's just nothing that we want to cut costs on. So it might extend into January. But Derek and I, we have our own goals. So our goal is by end of December to basically produce a break even end of December. But yeah, it might be like end of January, just depending on how things go. So anyway, what's also happening with everyone is they are reducing their advertising spend, especially on ads that are like ads that you would normally take losses on. So one type of advertising strategy is in the Amazon merchant community, they call them like attack ads. So proactive might be attacking our tree active keyword very aggressively, meaning when someone searches for tree active face wash, there's proactive ads all over the place. And from Proactive's perspective, they bid so high on that ad spend that they will actually take a loss on that sale because their hope is to steal a customer indefinitely from us, which gives them extra value because it drives us out of the market. Maybe we go bankrupt or whatever. That's what they're trying to do, and they stole a sale. Well, now everyone is cutting out that kind of advertising. No one is willing to take losses in favor of long-term market share. So we're going to see a massive decrease in for the PPC squad, the cost per clicks. That's going to come down. For everyone else, what's going to end up happening is we're going to be able to be just more successful in general with our ad spend. And that's nice because that is one of our major expenses. So we are reducing our ad spend significantly. We've been spending $85,000 a month on ad spend, but our reduction is a little bit due to market, but a lot of it due to our previous PPC squad not really doing their responsibilities very well, and they've been overspending on stuff that, like, it's pretty clear that they just weren't looking at. Well, yeah, not to throw anyone on the bus too much, but they just weren't doing their shit right. So basically, once Derek has grabbed the reins of PPC, he's looking at it and he's like, holy shit, we've been burning like 15 grand a month on just wasting money, just stirring it up and throwing it out the window, basically, because we're spending money on advertising that we shouldn't have been spending on. Meanwhile, we also, due to the same level of neglect, have not been spending advertising on stuff that we very much should have been. In fact, what I've just been working on just now that I'm taking a little break during is I'm going through our Phoenix sheet and looking at all of our non-moving products, and so many of them just never had advertising turned on. It's like, oh man, it's impossible to measure. Tens of thousands, maybe even probably, well, that's in terms of profit, but in terms of revenue, like well over $100,000 in the past 6 months have we been missing out on because we haven't had just ads turned on for certain products. So that's been, it's mixed emotions when I see stuff like that. On one hand, it's like, man, we just, we had trust in people that I guess we shouldn't have trusted. And then two, it's like, well, can't blame anyone but myself because I didn't have, the systems in place to catch this stuff. I was relying on trust, but, at the end of the day, relying on trust screwed us. So need to have systems and reporting and blah, 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 blah. So there's that. But on the flip side of the emotions, it's like, ooh, this is very easy value that we have not previously had, that now with 15 minutes of work on each of these listings, we will now have. So that's pretty sweet, to be able to do such a little amount of effort, because all the hard shit has already been done. We already created all the product and all the content and all that stuff, and it's already sitting there at Amazon, and literally we just hadn't ever turned on Amazon advertising, so it hasn't been selling. So with like a couple of like beep, boop, 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 beep, now we're all of a sudden making money on the products, and there's a lot of them. There is a lot of them. And then on top of that, other things I'm recognizing, there's issues where like we just, I don't know, didn't have good keyword research, or just bad communication, or just in general, very small things that are needed to make a lot of these products be successful. And, with all the people that we've had in Amazon, it is a little confusing to me. Again, this is that mixed emotions kind of thing where it's like, why didn't anyone else catch this stuff? We've had really smart people. Does just no one care? Like, have we literally had all these people on our team seeing this and just no one cares? So that's a little demoralizing. Like my whole dream is to build this community of people that care a lot about each other and care a lot about the vision and, the mission of NOVAEO in general. And to see this like super obvious, glaringly obvious stuff that is just pure neglect and not caring, I don't know, it's kind of hurtful to me, to be honest. But again, on the flip side, it's like, well, fuck, it is what it is. Most of those people are gone or whatever. Now we're building systems, so even if people don't care, at least the systems catch it, blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the day, well, there's very, very easy value. So while everyone else was running a tighter ship and, their listings, their products were doing as good as they possibly can, and now the market is crashing and they're just going on a downturn, well, we were running a very loose ship, which is bad leadership and bad system building on my part. Sorry about that, guys. I definitely really failed you on this one. But I can't beat myself up on it. I just gotta keep things moving forward and do the best I can. So I'm recognizing that my attention needs to be more into the operations and execution of things. Anyway, so while everyone else is riding the market down, well, the market's going to affect us too. But we have this value, this opportunity right in front of us where we might actually create a little bit of an uptick, because technically we should be up here. If we were doing everything correctly, we'd be up here, but we weren't, so we're here. And now while the market's going to take everyone down past here and keep on going down, we correct everything, and because of the market, we won't be back up here where we should have been, but we might be here, and that's still a win. So if everyone else coming down past where we are even now, we're at least going to come up here, and that's awesome. So lots of competitive advantage all around on all this stuff. Lots of very low-hanging fruit in terms of value creation. We just need to get executing. This is mostly in the Amazon world. We need to execute. We got to be fast. I know it's kind of like we're still establishing roles and getting like this pod system rocking and rolling, but at the same time, like we can't really afford to go through this like elaborate, long-winded SOP for, say, PPC just to turn this product on. Like we need to just turn this product on, So what I've just been brainstorming on, and I guess this isn't finalized yet, but Flint, I'm going to ask you to basically partner up with me, and I'm going to show you everything I've been finding and all the notes I've been making in the Phoenix sheet. I'm going to ask you to just be like a one-man attack beast of addressing all these issues by yourself. So I don't want to distract an entire pod of people like doing like the content refresh project. And, Derek is totally rewriting our entire PPC strategy and teaching it to Sunil and KJ. And actually Jupiter just joined the PPC pod because we have so much there that we need to do. So I don't want to distract these SOPs, these systems that we're building, but at the same time, we need to get shit like executed on that won't take long at all. So Flint, since you know quite a lot of just different stuff in Amazon, and your role as the reactive is basically to look at stuff that's not doing well and then react. So you and I are going to partner up and start addressing these. You're going to be the execution arm. I'm going to teach you how I look at things. You can add your insights into how you already know to look at things also. So this isn't necessarily like a what I say goes and only what I say goes. I'm going to get us like 99% of the way for every single listing, and then, well, there's always more. So add your insights and then basically just start executing. And I don't know if you can copyright or not, but I can. So anything that like just needs quick title changes and stuff like that, I can write them if you can't. 5 minutes, new title. So anyway, yeah, lots of competitive advantage, lots of low-hanging fruit on the value side of things. Then there's the Phoenix funnel, which in marketing world, funnel, this is so much more robust than a funnel. I don't know, I'm starting to think of it like maybe Phoenix Phlow would be a cooler project name. But this is basically, as I described in another video, our new business model. So historically, our business strategy was Amazon. And we've always been trying to like tack on and like add to our Amazon income stream with like .coms and PMPs and stuff like that. But like we always get sucked back into just focusing on Amazon. So like we get our social media rolling and then we get sucked back into Amazon. We get our .coms moving and then we get sucked back into Amazon. Derek just led about like a 7 or 8 month long project to build advertising off of Amazon through social media ads and Google ads, sending traffic to our TreeActive.com. And we were getting there. We were definitely getting there, but we just had to pull the cord on that because it's still an investment phase. And so now we're stuck back into Amazon. But now with the Phoenix funnel and under Cacao's leadership, we are going to build this ecosystem of where our customers, like where we want to end up. We want all of them to end up somewhere, actually in multiple locations. And basically, what is the value that we can create for them? What is the value that they can create for us all along the way? So it's not just sales, but like user-generated content, reviews, subscriptions, affiliates, all these different things. And so now, instead of focusing on Amazon as just like a profit generator, now we can think of Amazon as lead gen. So just like, I know I'm going to lose some of you guys that aren't into marketing, but a lot of you guys understand this. So for those not into marketing, just try your best. So in normal off Amazon marketing, e-commerce marketing, you run ads, you turn a certain amount of people that see the ads into people that give you their email address. That's list building. A certain percentage of those go to the store. A certain percentage of those buy product. And at the end of the day, you're using the list building. And so the people that buy product initially help pay for the ads, but you're still always at a loss. Everything I just said so far, you're always well, not always, but especially with the types of products we sell, you're typically at a loss. But then what you're doing is you now have these contacts and you're hitting them with email marketing, and maybe you get them into a Facebook group and you do like Facebook ads and blah, 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 blah. And so you look at LTV, lifetime value. And so, it may have cost $20 just to get in front of that person and get them to go through the funnel and buy. But now you have them and you can send them emails for free. And so if they buy again, now maybe they break even. And if they buy again, like every 45 days or whatever, now you're profiting. And maybe they buy every 45 days for the next like 5 years. And so you're profiting every time. That's normal off Amazon marketing. Amazon is all about make money as soon as you capture them, or sometimes you're like paying for ranking. That's what advertising is. Again, I know I lost some of you guys, no problem. But basically what we're doing now is Amazon, even though we make money and make profit as we bump our search rank and get people buying and then blah, 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 well, no longer do we stop at the end of the sale. Amazon wants us to stop at the end of the sale. They want it to be end of transaction. We never know who our customers are. They never know who we are. Well, I guess that's not true, but basically Amazon doesn't want them to end up in our social media. They don't want us to have their phone numbers and emails and all that stuff. But we now have this very ingenious system to capture a lot of the email, basically a lot of the contact information of the majority of our customers, which, you know, Amazon isn't going to love, but, you know, screw them, they suck. So we will now be able to use Amazon as lead gen to put these people into our Phoenix Flow, where now we can focus on lifetime value, and not just lifetime value from a revenue perspective, like a sales perspective, but lifetime value in terms of user-generated content, subscriptions, which, yeah, I know is sales, reviews, and all these other things, to the point where, like, they might be buying info products and stuff like that in the future as we start launching that stuff. Because again, guys, always remember that right now you're looking at a product brand business, but that is not what NOVAEO is. That a few years from now, product brands is just going to be this like little, it's going to be this small piece of the pie, and we're going to have all these other businesses. For example, you know, we have a manufacturing warehouse. Well, as soon as our warehouse is able to be offer like competitive pricing for manufacturing, so we're not quite there yet, but, you know, we will. Then we're going to start taking on clients. So anyway, we're going to build these other income streams all over the place. So, and we can be leveraging this ecosystem of Phoenix Flow in order to provide value and give value to all these other entities. So basically, we're making a pretty incredible, not pivot, but I don't know, I guess it's just like a new perspective, and it's very refreshing. It's very refreshing to start thinking of ourselves outside of just being Amazon focused. That doesn't make Amazon any less valuable, by the way. Amazon is actually going to become more valuable because it's going to be our primary lead gen. But what this also means is that if we're able to start calculating lifetime value of customer, then all of a sudden we're able to take a little bit more loss. So when we're advertising on Amazon, you know, right now we're writing our SOPs where we don't really want to take any losses on the sale, even if it's going to bump our search ranking. But, you know, it's going to get to a point where, well, if we know that, you know, 15% of our customers end up having a lifetime value of $150 or more, well, now we don't just look at the numbers of that exact sale, we start looking at that $150. And that's going to like make us be able to get way more aggressive on Amazon. If we get more aggressive, then we're going to be having a much bigger presence on Amazon. And it's going to be a lot more fun when we're like running these brands that are like, everyone's going to know who we are, because if you search for any kind of like health and wellness product, our brands are going to be right big front and center, because we're able to spend more, because we're able to focus on that lifetime value of customer that almost no one else is able to do, because they don't have these ingenious systems of being able to get the customer contact information, and then start focusing on lifetime value. So all that's very exciting too. Man, I have more. My throat's getting a little dry. I'm gonna take a little break anyway. Be right back. I know I'm missing a topic of something else awesome, but I'll, you know, whatever. This will, at least it'll keep this video a little bit shorter. So I'll just move into bringing us back to the here and now. You know, everything I said is about the Phoenix funnel. We're building this in small increments because that's what we can afford to do. We can't just make any big investments. Our rule right now is anything that we are investing in, whether it's a new product launch, which is dramatically slowed down. Actually, it's not permanently. It is paused completely right now. We will slowly get back up product launching, you know, little by little. Again, we need to see where we kind of bottom out first, and once we get to break even and all that stuff, or just like there's a product that we're like so certain is just going to crush it. But anyway, the here and now is we still are as awesome as everything I just talked about was, and even though we have all these competitive advantages, we're still in a mode where we need to do more with less, and we have a big team. Most of our competitors that are selling around $500,000 a month like we are teams of like 4 people, 5 people. And even though we just went through some painful cuts, we still have significantly more than that, way more than that. So we are still bloated. And that's because we have a big operation that's going to support all this massiveness as we grow. And it's going to work out really well for us. But in every role that we have, we need to be extremely efficient at every single individual level, extremely efficient, extremely quality. We don't have any room for anyone to need someone watching over their shoulder. So if you're a copywriter, you need to be able to proofread your own work. Basically a creative in general, design, same kind of thing. If you're Amazon Pod and someone, like PPC, I guess, if you're making mistakes and someone else is needing to catch those mistakes, you're creating a massive bottleneck and an attention suck. We can't have that. I'm not calling out KJ and Sunil, by the way. I'm speaking generically. If you're in supply chain and you're just missing little elements, that could be very costly. Christo, now that you're in procurement, and Chris, I'm not sure if you're still going to be in procurement or not. Faye, I think you're moving in there a little bit. Every couple of percent that we can squeeze out of our supplier, that's going to be huge for us. And any couple of percent that we're not squeezing out from our suppliers, that's big. In fact, actually, I just reminded myself of something else I want to do today. Is I don't think we've actually ever done any negotiating. I'm pretty sure we kind of more or less just accept the prices that are given to us. So I want to start working on teaching some negotiation skills, because I'm pretty good at that. I have some creative ways of doing it. But I also might be wrong. Maybe you guys have gotten into some negotiations, but either way, there's always a little bit more, right? So anyway, we really need to be doing more with less. It's so cliche, but it's very true. If anyone is feeling a need to pad hours or anything like that to hit 40, it's kind of obvious when people do that, and we don't have any room for it now. No matter if you're the longest serving veteran, no matter how valuable you are, as of right now, we're flipping a switch, and anything less than full attention, full focus, we don't need anyone to work more than 40-hour commitments. I'm not asking anyone to lose sleep. I'm asking everyone to be focused and to be honest about if they feel like they could do more. Can you create more value, or are you not? Is there space on your plate that you could take on within the 40-hour request? You will be scoring a lot of points, mind you, if that is the case. Not that you need points from me. That's not the kind of dynamic I want to create, but you'll be scoring points from the whole team when you communicate in your reports that other team members are watching if you can take on more. Our operational systems, especially the ones that we've been rocking and rolling on recently. Now I remember some shit I was going to talk about. Especially the ones that we've been communicating recently, like the individual reporting, all that. Take it seriously, because one of the things that we're supposed to be getting out of that report, actually, to me, this is the primary. There's a lot of primary things. One of the major things is when time expectation does not meet the time it actually took to execute. That does not mean that you're doing badly. I have this feeling that a lot of you guys feel like I don't want to communicate that because that makes it seem like I did a bad job. No, that's not the case. It means that something about our system is not optimized. So there's fat to trim. We can become more skilled. We can find automation. Automation might be a software. It might be Marvin Magic with Google Sheets. It just means there's something in the system that has room for optimization. Or we're totally out of our minds when we create expectations, and that's also good to know, because then we can get on the same page. And if we learn that something takes longer than we originally thought, well, that also can inspire creative thinking on how we can improve our strategy of how we do things. So that is a huge focus. So don't forget that part. A lot of people aren't communicating that part. It is imperative, as part of the individual videos, that you communicate when something is planned. The time that something is planned to take is different than what actually took an execution. Ideally, you communicate what you believe the solution to be, but if you can't come up with solution, no problem, just communicate the problem and leave it to other people that might have more knowledge or just creative thinking to come up with a solution instead. But at the end of the day, the more value you're able to create, the more, talking at the individual level, the more, more income you can make and all that stuff. I mean, I really like for us to think in terms of team, but let's face it, we're humans. We're kind of operate at a little bit of a selfish level anyway. So yeah, thinking in terms of just individual incomes, it all comes down to the value that you create. So if you have more space on your plate, communicate that, because that means you can create more value. If you're finding that things are taking longer than you think they ought to, or if they're taking longer than other people think they ought to, communicate that, because we can help make you more efficient. And then if you're more efficient, you can also create more value. So more with less. Okay, so that other thing I was going to talk about is platforms. So it is very, very, very likely that we're going to be moving to ClickUp instead of Asana. So ClickUp is way more robust. It includes a lot more stuff in it. It looks sweeter. It's actually cheaper. We're going to save a little bit of money on this. And for the team members that have ClickUp experience, every single team member has said that it's way better than Asana. I do not have ClickUp experience. Yeah, so we're pretty excited about that. And what we're also really excited about is it kind of lets us start fresh. And that's really what we need right now. We need this like cleansing energy in the team. We just went through some really hard cuts. It includes people, it includes subscriptions, it includes projects. We're redirecting a lot of attention, new product, new projects, or tweak projects, getting new attention in different ways. New roles are developing. So we're in this mode where we can just start fresh. I mean, that's what Project Phoenix is meant to be all about. We got crippled and now we're rising from the ashes like a phoenix, bigger and stronger and more powerful than ever. That is more true now than it's ever been. We have the competitive advantages lined up in front of us. We have all this low-hanging fruit. We have all this newness going on. So we really need to take advantage of that. And so we're going to be migrating most likely to ClickUp. And in doing so, we all need to learn it. And we're going to be able to just totally cleanse ourselves of all the Asana bullshit. We are moving into cleaning up what we call our tree, which is like our organization of all things teams and projects. So, like think of it like a G drive file system. So like main folder, subfolder, sub-subfolder, sub-subfolder. We're going to arrange everything to mirror each other. So I don't know how ClickUp communicates their stuff, so I'm going to stick with Asana stuff. But like you have Asana Workspace, so that's the NOVAEO G drive. Then you have Asana Team, so that's going to be like probably like our master pods, maybe guilds. I need to think through this. It'll either be our guild or our master pods. Remember the difference. Some of you guys are still using saying like Amazon pod. It's not Amazon pod, it's Amazon guild. Pods are particular projects. Amazon is not a project, it's a platform. We have projects within Amazon, like the content refresh, that's a pod. The buyer account content, that's a pod. PPC, that's a pod. Amazon, that's a collection of people on our team that have skills related to the Amazon platform. They're a guild. Anyway, so we'll have G Drive lining up with our ClickUp, lining up with our Slack channels, lining up with our Voxer groups. And it's going to be way more organized. We're going to have way better SOP about where to communicate what and when. And that's all going to happen with our transition to ClickUp. Speaking of Slack, just to save money, we might move to the free version. Basically, the only thing that we lose is in the free version, you can only go back in search history 90 days. So if anyone thinks that might be a problem, please speak up. But as soon as we decide to start paying again, we get our search history, we get our history back. So nothing's going to be lost indefinitely. So we might do this for about 90 days. It'll save us about $1,500, which will be pretty sweet. But if anyone has a reason to not do that, or if there's anything that we need to dig through, any old projects or something like that, I don't know. I can't imagine anything. Some people might use Slack channels to find files instead of G Drive because our G Drive is such a mess. Sometimes I do that. So if that's the case, then take note that that file might not be. I guess if it's pinned to a channel, I don't know. Just take note that we might lose our ability to search back 90 days. Temporarily. I'm not going to do it in this video, but we're probably ready to start making the next evolution in our tandem pod parties. I know it's pretty common for a lot of people to basically, I bet there's some people that this entire week, they never actually communicated, like audio. They may have been with in a workspace or a room, video on, and basically just no one communicated to them. So we'll probably be ready to make our next evolution in how we use tandem and pod parties and stuff like that. Yep. Shit. What else? All right, I'll take one more pause, and I think I covered everything though. Okay, yeah, I think that's basically it. I guess just to officially announce, we're done with our layoffs. Those sucked. We did it though. So we're finished with that. Moving forward, well, I will say this. Like I said, everyone can step it up. It's not about stepping up more hours. 40 hours is all we're asking of anyone. So it's not about stepping up more hours, but it's just stepping up efficiency, communication, passion, attention, focus, operating within our systems. Anyone that's like an outlier and just not properly performing in our systems, you're creating tension, you're creating toxicity, you're creating bottlenecking, you're creating a need for harmony to have to do work that's kind of ridiculous, to have to tell you that you're not following an SOP correctly. And we need everyone doing this stuff because that's how we operate as a collective. We're all unique individuals, but we have to operate in systematically in order to be able to create as much as we want to create and as efficiently as we want to create. So anyway, we are done with layoffs, but I will say this, and this isn't to create fear, but I just want to be real with everyone, is the whole world is getting laid off right now, which means there's a lot of talent out there. And, labor rates and stuff like that, from the business perspective, everything's falling. Or it will be as the recession really sets in. So we are holding a high bar for what is considered quality. We've never really been that good at that. We are so sympathetic. We have such big hearts that when we get someone in the team and they're nice, we just never want to let them go. But we can't do that now. And really we should never do that, because if we do that, then it's a disservice to the entire rest of the team. So it's kind of a selfish thing that I do. But yeah, I'm just very sympathetic, very empathetic, and it's just hard. But we are where we are. The market's where it's at. And so we are holding a very high bar. So if you feel like you can be producing more, you need to communicate that. And again, I'm not talking about losing sleep. I'm not talking about more hours. I mean attention, and really it's passion, focus, interest, attention to detail, the systems, So I really don't mean that in a threatening manner and all, but that's transparency. You're gonna be looking at shit very closely. You're gonna be feeling a lot. And if anyone feels like they don't deserve to be here in a market where there are people that really, really want to be here, in a situation in which we just laid off people that really, really want to be here, then I'm going to let you go and make room for people that do want to be here. So that's not a threat or anything like that. I just want to be very transparent. That way, if anyone sees any shifts or anything like that, I don't want there to be fear of layoffs due to downsizing. Anything that, from this point forward, it's due to not being 100% in alignment with the NOVAEO vision and the commitments that every single other individual is making in order to create this incredible community and all of the creation that this community is going to produce. Is that fair? I think that's fair. And I need to hold myself accountable to being able to hold everyone else accountable, because it's not something I like doing, but you guys are at a disservice when I'm not doing that. So that is my promise to you guys. I'm going to hold myself accountable to having a more accountable system to demand the passion, the attention, and the camaraderie that this community is going to require in order to build this vision, this massive vision that we have in front of us. All right? So I have 100% confidence that we're going to pull through this recession. I know that we're still going to need to be making more slashes with like subscriptions, stuff like that. And that stuff sucks, but that's easier to do than people. So anyway, onward and upward. That's a cheesy line from back in my Coast Guard days. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I know this was another long one, but yeah, I appreciate y'all's attention.